Welcome to the Nerd Party.
I think people are perverts.
I've maintained that. That's the foundation of my career.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. You have entered the House of Fincher. Thank you so much for stepping in. We are excited to talk to you guys today and talk to each other about a magnificent film. This isn't just one of those films where you're like, okay, we got to cover this because we're doing a show about this specific director, whatever. But no, today, this week, we get to talk about Fight Club. That's right. And don't tell anyone because I know you're not supposed to talk about it, but we are breaking the rules hardcore today for your ear holes as well as our own. And hopefully they don't send people after us. But you know what? I think we're going to risk it because today and every day, I am your co-host Tristan Riddell, and with me as always is John Mills and Brandon Mutala. How are you guys doing?
I am Jack's complete lack of surprise.
I am Brandon's throbbing excitement for talking about this movie.
Hey now. Hey now.
Oh.
Whoa.
Hey.
Hey, somebody
Okay.
splice in an important picture right there.
I wonder if we could do that audio. I'm editing. I should see if I can come up with an audio thing to do into this podcast.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
in the movie theater, you have that one frame of audio that blips in. It's just kind of like a
Yeah.
and it just kind of echoes throughout the theater.
Yep.
I love how
So
the kid
hopefully-
just starts crying at that too.
Oh, jeez. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Well, hopefully this is your, the listeners, hopefully this isn't your first episode of House of Fincher, because if it is, we are going through and dissecting, analyzing, reviewing, and enjoying every single film that David Fincher has directed, as well as some episodes that he has directed later on in his career, with a la House of Cards and Mindhunters. Mm-hmm. And this week we're on Fight Club. And so this is the movie came out over 20 years ago. So it's very spoiler territory here. From here on out, come on, guys. If you're listening to this podcast, you clearly are a fan of Fincher, hopefully a fan of Fight Club, and you've seen the movie, listened to the multiple commentaries, and seen all of the special features. I'm trying to figure out, where should we start? Do we do it like Fight Club, where we start at the end and then go through it and then figure out how we got to the end, or do we just start with our normal session and talk about how we first encountered this movie? Brandon, when did you first see it? Where did you first see it? What'd you think of it?
I'm pretty sure that the first time I saw this was actually on home video, and I think I had just bought the special edition DVD, which I still own, which has the 4 commentaries, the 2 discs, and it's got the brown cover. That's how I had to watch it for this, because I couldn't find it streaming anywhere, anywhere on any of the services that I subscribe to. But it still looked pretty good on my DVD. But yeah, I think that the original one was a home video purchase of Fight Club on DVD.
That DVD set with the brown cover, if I recall correctly, it's the Interpol warning. Is the screen blips out and goes to some Tyler Durden. I had that edition as well. Adored it. Absolutely adored it. Watched the heck out of it. But my first encounter was actually, once again, I'm the old man of the group. Saw it in the movie theater. I remember going before. It was one of the trailers attached to Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, because that had Anna and the King, Fight Club, and I think it was Titan AE, some animated thing that completely bombed later in the year. And I remember sitting there and seeing the trailer for Fight Club, and as soon as I saw, I want you to hit me as hard as you can, I said, you have my attention, please go on. And that was the only one of those 3 trailers where I was like, and I saw Phantom Menace multiple times, and every time the trailer for Fight Club came on, I said, this is a movie I'm going to go see.
Not Titan AE?
No, missed that. Was only out for 2 hours or something? Very quick. But
they canceled the theatrical run halfway through the movie. It was crazy.
Yes, the very first screening, they walked in. They were like, "Sorry, folks, we're just not even going to finish. Just go home. Just go home." And the Oscar tour de force that was Anna and the King. Just can't forget that one. But then my brother and I went to go see it, and I was in a very weird space in my life at that time, just sort of, transitioning phases in my life and everything. And when we saw Fight Club, it was me and my brother, and it was like we walked out of that. We were like, that is one of the greatest films we've ever seen in our entire lives. And that's been my relationship with it ever since. What about you, Tristan?
I honestly don't remember the first time I saw it. I really don't. I just remember being obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. I remember being obsessed with it in high school, and I can't nail it down. I don't know what it is about my memory where because you'd think with a movie that I am obsessed with, like Fight Club, that I would have that moment, mm-hmm. where just like the angel started singing and, they spat in the devil's face. But I remember owning the DVD, and I didn't have the brown one that looked like the packaging. Like I had the one that had the poster that existed on every single dude's wall in college.
Oh yes.
I had that DVD, and I didn't buy the Blu-ray until the 10th anniversary in 2009. I remember I watched the DVD so much that I cracked the spindle, like I cracked the inner ring, mm-hmm. and that's what prompted me to get the Blu-ray. And then it was I consumed that. Like after I saw it, I was just like, I have to know everything there is to know about this movie. I went and read the novel, which is a fantastic novel. Have you guys read it?
No, but I bought it after watching it this time. I said, you know what? This is the year I'm going to read it.
Mm-hmm. I actually, now that we're talking about it, I actually think I did read the book before I saw the movie, because I remember reading the book when I lived with my friend in Nanaimo, and that was just after graduation, which would have been before this movie came out. And I'm pretty sure I read it because I knew the movie was coming out. Huh. So that was 1998 that I would have read it.
This movie is, that novel was written by Chuck Palahniuk, and that was his first novel that he ever wrote. And it is as powerful as the movie. Mm-hmm. And it is such a magnificent first time novel, even for a freshman take. You would think that someone who has been, writing novels for 20 years had written this, and it is such an enjoyable experience, and it's so thought-provoking. But this is one of those times where the movie is better. And even the author, Chuck Palahniuk, has said that the movie is an improvement upon the novel. And you don't hear that too terribly often in the literary world. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I was, I was obsessed with the Chemical Brothers soundtrack.
Oh,
it was just on loop in my car that summer. It's just... Now, one thing I do want to say is I never got the chance. I'm not as old as John here. I never got the chance to see it in theater until last year for the 20th anniversary.
Oh, no kidding.
Now, I got to see it at the Music Box in Chicago, which is a famous theater around these parts. And I got to see it with our beloved Mike Schindler.
There you go.
And we went to, it felt like a midnight showing, but I don't think it was. I think we were done at midnight. And at the Music Box, for those of you who don't know what it's like, so you walk in. It's a very old theater. It's got like it's got the velvet ropes. It's got the ghastly carpet. It's got the old 1920 seats that were built for people who were like 100 pounds smaller. And there was no AC. You could see the piano in the corner where they used to and still do play along. It was unbearably hot. It smelled like stale popcorn, and the film transfer, like the film itself, the actual physical film was grainy, scratched. It had holes in it, and I couldn't get comfortable. And it was magnificent. It was the best theater going experience that I could possibly have for this movie. It was perfect for Fight Club.
That is pretty awesome. I haven't seen it, of course, in the theater since '99. I would have loved to have participated like that. But as you're talking about it, two things come to mind. One is, again, yes, I'm the old man and everything. I remember at the time, because you talk about how powerful the film is, and it is, this is one of the prime examples that I go to in my brain of how a film can be completely misunderstood even by people who liked it. And what I mean by that is I remember specifically, I can't remember the guy's name, but he worked for the same company that I worked for. And one time he showed up at my apartment or whatever, and I'm hanging there with my girlfriend, and there are other people there and everything. And he's pointing to the scratches on his knuckles because he and his friends started a fight club. And I remember looking at him and thinking to myself, that is the dumbest damn idea I've ever heard, and that completely misses the point of the movie. But I looked at him and said, oh, no kidding. Really? Like it was one of those things where, if I had externalized my internal thoughts, it would have been just a complete. Do you guys have you ever run across anybody who completely sort of missed the boat like that with this film?
I feel like every Fight Club fan, true fan, has ran across somebody who either loves the film for the wrong reasons or hates the film for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, you guys know me pretty well. Like, when it comes to movies, I'm pretty even keeled. Like, I don't need other people to have the same opinions as me. When it comes to film, like, I don't, if you didn't like one of my favorite movies, I don't feel the need to like beat you down with rhetoric until you concede that, oh yes, it's an amazing movie and I love it now. I that's just not my style. But for some reason, this movie was a trigger for me hardcore in high school. I remember I was in English class and somehow it came up, and some girl was just trashing it, just saying like the real stereotypical stuff. Like, it's like, they didn't say toxic masculinity because that wasn't a phrase back then, but like that's essentially what they were saying. Like, it's just guys beating each other up. It's all about fighting. It's horrible. And then the teacher started chiming in, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, it's god awful. You shouldn't watch it." And I just lost my mind. Like, I just like I was almost to the point of blacking out, where like my body just took over and my mind shut down, and I was just pontificating and going off and doing a lot of hand gestures and waving and just saying, "You don't understand it. It's about anti-consumerism. It's not about fighting. It's about being locked off. It's about a forgotten generation." I'm just like,
well done.
Handle it.
Well done. So this has become the story of how Tristan failed a class in high school. What about you, Brandon? Did you run across anybody like that?
Honestly, I never did. But I've never talked about this movie to a lot of people. So you had me worried there for a second. I'm like, oh dear Lord, did I misunderstand this movie after all these years?
Oh, no.
And so like Tristan reiterated that. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what this is all about. I'm like, okay, good. I'm fine. So I was worried for a second, but yeah, no,
you thought this was going to be your crucible.
Yeah. My friend Matthew and I, we watched it together for a few times, but we didn't really talk about it too much. I don't know why though, because we both loved Fincher and we both loved this movie. So I'm not quite sure why we never talked about it too much. But I think this movie is really fascinating. And it's tough because, watching a movie like this, like I appreciate what they're trying to say in the movie. And there's so many times when I watch this movie and every time I'm done, I'm like, man, I wish I could just give up all these crazy things that I like to collect. Mm-hmm. All these things that I own. And, the line that he says in it where it's like, the things that you own end up owning you. Like, it's such a powerful line because it's very true. Yeah. And I wish it wasn't true for me. But, for a lot of the times it is. Because my stuff is important to me. My wife has talked about you should eliminate some of these things. And I'm like, I don't want to eliminate some of these things. Like, I've got beside me, hundreds of Star Trek novels. You guys can see behind me hundreds of CDs that I just never get around to listening to because I don't have the time. I couldn't possibly have the time to go to them, but I don't want to get rid of them. And it's like, why don't I want to get rid of them? It's because they own me. So.
Okay, first and foremost, I think you're being a little too hard on yourself because what you're doing is you're externalizing a passion and a love, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you are teasing on a thread here, though, where we're all in this boat, especially as nerds, of this idea of one of the great ironies is Fight Club is speaking to this anti-consumerism, and it's been consumed and adored by people who have wound up in that exact same place, that exact place of, why do you think that there's a show on Netflix with, I don't even know what her name is, Marie Kondo or something like that, where it's about how you get rid of stuff. Yeah. And, this is something that I deal with. Everybody deals with this sort of thing. And it's because we attach this talismanic quality to things. Mm-hmm. And so you have those Star Trek novels, but that's because those Star Trek novels represent something sacred and beloved to you. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit different than in that he's purchasing things because that's just what he's supposed to do. He's not buying those glasses and that dishware set and all of those sorts of things for any other reason than this is your entire life is about commoditization and about owning as much of it as you can. But you'll note nothing in his apartment, he even says, nothing really means anything to him. That's the spot that he's in. That's the type of consumerism that they're really talking about. Now, you can always open up the can of worms and everything about, how far does it go, or are you letting yourself off the hook sort of thing. But I think Fight Club is much more about the mindless consumerism of, why did you buy a new coffee table? I don't know. It looked nice. It's like, but did you need a new coffee table? That sort of thing.
Yeah, like with the yin yang coffee table, he said, he's like, when you find something clever, you just have to have it. He's like, you have to have it. Like it's not like he has an affinity for the yin yang symbol or an affinity for Asian culture, or it's something that he needed to really tie the room together like a nice rug. It was he just filled his apartment with junk, cheap junk, to look nice, just because that's what he was expected to do as a man of his age and his position.
The ultimate irony there, that he never had anybody over. So who was he trying to impress? Mm-hmm. And so that's even a line that I'll use with a buddy of mine who hates the fact that I've largely transferred a lot of my books and stuff like that to digital, because I said, I just don't have the space for this stuff anymore. So guess what? I can buy a Kindle and I can have the works of Shakespeare instead of having a 30-pound book sitting on my bookshelf. And, he'll every so often he'll give me, some crap for that. And I'll look at him and I'll say, who are you trying to impress? Like, what do I care if somebody sees Shakespeare on my shelf? Now, it would be different if I was a soundtrack aficionado like you, Brandon, because you're like a soundtrack guru. So music has a special place in your life. So it makes sense that you would have a lot of soundtracks.
Right. But I'll give this confession here. Like, so while I don't have fancy furniture, and like furniture and plates were not my thing, like, books and movies and stuff like that were my thing. Like Tristan and I were having a conversation the last time we recorded this podcast. It was before you joined us, John. And I was telling Tristan, I'm like, I've got all these movies that I've bought that I've never gotten around to watching. And it was like a compulsion of me to buy these movies. And I was telling Tristan, not only is it a compulsion to have them, but it's a compulsion that I have to go through all the bonus features. Right. And so, like, I don't know why, I don't know who I'm impressing, but it like, even with Criterion, like, I think I've told you guys that I've got like the first 600 Criterion titles. Right. And it was like physically painful for me to stop buying them, and I stopped about 10 years ago. And it's like, I don't know, like, I'm doing a bleeding hearts thing here to you guys because it's a weird nerd habit.
No.
But it is kind of the same thing, even though you think it's kind of not, right? So, yeah. Anyways.
Well, we might be getting into, I think, a larger territory that even Fight Club might not have necessarily trounced upon. But before we get too further into the weeds, there is one thing that I do want to share with you guys, because we did touch on this briefly. And talking about like misunderstanding the message, even people who like it, like people like us. But there was an anniversary edition of the novel, the book, and it had a new foreword by the author. It was written by the author, and he says that he was at a carnival one time, and there was this guy who was dressed as a cowboy, and the cowboy said like, all right, so the first rule of the exotic cave adventure is you do not talk about the exotic cave adventure. And Palahniuk said like, oh, hey, I wrote that book. And the guy goes, it was a book? And then the author proceeds to say, yes, it was a book. It was a book before the movie. It was a book before Versace released the Fight Club edition of her clothing line. It was a book before guys started a fight club in every major city and every single college town. It was a book before there was a makeup released to where there was beaten up models to give the Fight Club look. And he just goes on, and I think it was like for like 6 pages of stuff like this. And it's heartbreaking because even though we absolutely loved the movie, it was very much the reason. Like, because if the movie was never made, none of this stuff would have happened. None of this crazy consumerism would have happened because of the anti-consumerism message of the Fight Club novel. And now Chuck Palahniuk is a wealthy man because of this movie. So don't like he's not like he's not trying to bite the hand that fed him, but he's definitely trying to say that because of this movie, my message has been completely turned on its head and interpreted in the exact opposite way.
Right.
But doesn't that speak to, again, I have a ton of Star Wars stuff, and Brandon, you might have a ton of Star Trek stuff, and Tristan, I don't know, hair gel? You have a lot of hair gel. But
Moose.
I would say, oh, right, sorry. Since I have no hair, I get the terms confused. No, but seriously, like, it's almost the big... getting back to that big irony sort of thing where we've all fallen into that consumer trap. People are expressing their love for what this film says to them by buying a Funko Pop because it's so ingrained in our culture that the way that we express our love is to purchase it and feel we own a small part of it. Right. That's how we express, ownership. Whereas, yes, the real meaning behind so much of it is you can love it without the thing. It doesn't matter. And it's that is an incredibly difficult, it's like a counterculture message like no other.
I love that you brought that up because I have I don't have any Fight Club merch. Like, I had the Fight Club poster in college. I bought the novel, I bought the movie, but that's it. But just a couple years ago, I did buy the Mondo vinyl soundtrack by the Dust Brothers. And I might have said Chemical Brothers earlier. If I did, please forgive me. The Dust Brothers. And I had to get it because it was beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. And I love the music. The vinyl record itself, the actual physical record, is a soap pink. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because in order to listen to it, you have to destroy the cover. It's sealed. Like, you have to pull on a tab and completely rip it to shreds in order to get the vinyl out. And I thought, this is the beautiful part of the quote-unquote consumerism of Fight Club. Like, these people made something beautiful so that it could be destroyed. And they also made money off of it. How great is that?
It's pretty brilliant. It's proof that at least the marketing guy got the joke. Or marketing woman got the joke. Who knows? That's a terrific concept. But, we're sitting here, we're talking about we warned this big spoilery discussion, and we're just sort of talking about nothing that has to do with the film. But, when we talked about our first encounters with it, I actually want to put the question out there because I think this is a kind of a difficult one to answer. But if you had to pick a single scene that is your favorite scene from Fight Club, and Brandon, I'll let you should go first. Like, is there a favorite scene that you have in Fight Club? Like one that rises above the rest, like the tallow from the fat when you're making soap?
That is so tough because, there's so many amazing parts of this film that it's really hard to try and bring it down to like what's the favorite moment in it. I mean, because there's so many great characters, there's so many great shots in this. Like you look at the slow motion shot of Helena Bonham Carter smoking. You got that crazy distorted sex scene. There's probably a lot of my favorite stuff is like in the house early on before everybody gets there. Like this, they choose to live in this really, really, this house should be condemned, right? But I don't even know if I could do that. Like, what's a favorite shot or a favorite scene in this movie? Because there's so much. There's so much. But those are some of them.
I think that's a great testament to one of the things that's so incredible about this film is it's so effortless. It's so effortless at being perfect that it's almost impossible to pick that perfect scene. But what about you, Tristan? Do you have a favorite moment?
The chemical burn.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brandon, I'm like you, where the whole thing is a masterpiece, and every scene is a joy, and it's beautiful to watch, and it's so amazing to watch, and like the explanation of the rules. That's a fantastic scene. And when Brad Pitt is talking about how we were all raised to think that one day we're going to be movie gods and rock stars and everything like that, but we won't. That's an amazing scene. Like there's so many beautifully tragic moments in the movie, but the chemical burn has to be my favorite if I had to choose, which John is making me sadistically.
I am.
I think it's I love how Tyler is pushing Jack over the edge and forcing him to go to rock bottom, because he's just been pretending. He's just been tagging along with Tyler this entire time. He's just been, just kind of holding the line, and he's not really throwing himself at it until that moment where he gives him the chemical burn. And the music, the editing, the narration, how they spliced in searing and flesh from the dictionary, but also, shots of fire, and also it's that moment when he says, he's like, I'm gonna open up my mind again. I'm gonna find my spiritual, animal, or something like that. Tyler, smacks him around and says, no, don't deal with death the way those dead people do. And that was one of the first moments, I feel like, not one of the first, but one big moment where you're just like, oh, wait, he's in his head right now. How does he know exactly what he's thinking? Now, I know he does say something out loud, but it's almost like Tyler's peering into his head because, Tyler's in his head. And I love, I'm a believer myself. I'm a Christian, and I love when there are, I don't want to say alternative takes, but like when there are rough interpretations of what God is, or how he views humanity, or how humanity views him. And I loved Tyler saying, our fathers are our model for God. If our fathers bailed, what does that tell you about God? It tells you that he doesn't love you. In all probability, he hates you. I love those kinds of monologues, basically, and that's what this is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would actually, I gravitate toward that scene as well, but I do have another that as soon as you said the chemical burn scene, I was like, darn it, he took mine. But I do subscribe to it, because I do love the fact that it is, and Tyler has that other scene later where he's it's like at a Russian gulag or something like that, where he's got the megaphone and he's like, listen up, maggots. You are not a beautiful and unique snowflake. He's like breaking them down. And it's that whole allure. And I think that this is what's interesting. I think that this gets at the people who we ran across where they started their fight club and stuff like that. And it's like, I think you kind of missed the boat on this, but okay. I think that speaks to just sort of that subtle seduction that this nihilistic attitude can have when you're at a low point in your life, where you want to give up, where you want to say, no, it's all pointless. Oh my gosh, I can't believe how bad it is. And it's that part of you that is slapping you saying, yeah, it's bad, it's terrible. And you're caught at that point. And Tyler is that personification of that self-doubt and recrimination that occurs in those situations. But If I picked another scene, it would actually be the car wreck where they're in the car after he's beaten the living snot out of Jared Leto. I mean, who hasn't wanted to? But I can tell you that when they're in that car and those guys started, the first rule of Project Mayhem, shut up, and they exchange that look of it's another little tell that I love going back to, because it's another little tell that they sneak out at you of, well, this guy just asked them a question and yelled at them for doing, like that complete confusion. So in backwards context, it's, in hindsight, it makes so much sense. But I really love the way the music is, the way that the scene plays out, and the pacing of everything, because I think it's a perfect forwarding of what happens, in terms of the chemical burn scene, the way that it ties together, of that whole idea of, you went that far, I'm going to take you a little bit farther this time. We're going to see if you're committed yet, if you're totally willing to subsume yourself to me. And I love that scene as a result, because I think that music, everything about that scene is also perfect.
Mm-hmm. 2 bits of trivia real quick. That scene that you're describing, the car scene, the studio tried to cut the whole thing.
What?
They wanted to excise the entire thing. They thought it was way too long. And they're like, just get rid of it. It's way too long.
Oh, that's awful.
Fincher put his foot down and said, like, are you crazy? Like this is, like, this reveals so much and sets up so much. Also, the other thing is, I don't think the words were made up by Brad Pitt, but the idea to use a megaphone was Brad Pitt's idea when they were in the garden.
Yeah.
Because like in true Fincher fashion, it was like they did 30 takes, and Brad Pitt went to the AD and grabbed her megaphone and was just like, let me do this, and that was the take that they used.
Beautiful. That's a beautiful moment of inspiration then.
Mm-hmm. Now that we've had a chance to think about it, because I was kind of caught off guard by the question. So I don't know why I love it so much, but when Edward Norton is beating up Jared Leto's character, and there's a shot up at him, and he just does something with his hands. Like, it's such a, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed it, but it's always stuck out to me where he like rubs both sides of his face as he's like beating him. And it's just, it's a really weird motion to do at that time. Mm-hmm. But that's always stood out to me. And that's, if I had to pick something small, it would be definitely that. It's just a really fascinating acting choice that Edward Norton chose to do at that time.
Yeah, almost like he's using Jared Leto's blood like war paint or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what he's doing there. It's just really, he just kind of pauses, rubs his face on both sides, and keeps going. I don't know. It's just really, really, really neat. So
no, I agree. That is really neat.
So with this movie, like obviously, like we pretty much revealed that we all really like this movie. That's no surprise. We talked about our favorite scenes and everything like that. Thematically, and let's try to keep it tight. Let's keep it within the realms of our own personal experience as well as of the movie. What are some of the themes that connected with you when you first saw it, and are they different now, 20 years later? I mean, we're all adults now. We're all fathers. We're all husbands. So, I mean, sometimes I'll look at stuff a lot of times differently, media differently than I did when I was a young man. Now, obviously, we're all very different people than we were in 1999 or in 2000. So, John, I want to ask you that question. Has your, I don't want to say love or appreciation, and I don't want to say understanding, but has your interpretation changed over time from 1999 to today? Has anything hit you differently in any kind of way? And if you need time to think about it, let me know.
I think that's a great question. And I think I can say that it's not that my interpretation has changed, but rather my relationship to it. Because I think that 20 years ago, especially with what I was going through and about to go through at that point in my life, there was Tyler was an indulgence in a way of, I know that's not the part that I'm. It's like a watching a caustic comedian. I know I'm not supposed to like that guy, but boy, I do, because he's giving voice to that really terrible side of me that I've learned to control. It's almost like Tyler is that part of Bruce Banner that's always in there threatening to become the Hulk. And you know that it's there. And I, at the time, appreciated the acknowledgement that there is that primal, rage-filled, bitter, cynical part, that baggage that you carry around with you. I think that over time, my relationship to that has become more of one of eliciting a feeling of pity that it exists for the nameless character who is Tyler. There is, I guess, a sense of how desperately sad it is that the only answer he can give himself to these challenging questions is to continue, basically, instead of going to a support group that would help him, it's to indulge his destructive side and try to validate his anger by spreading misery around. And that, I think, now elicits a much more, this will sound pompous as hell, but I don't mean it that way, but almost a more compassionate response for Edward Norton. Like, I want to give the guy a hug and be like, there's a better way to handle this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that completely. Brandon, how about you?
I think when I first saw it, it was more about the twist and the enjoying the creativity of the story that's being told, having that twist come out of left field, for them being the same person. And that's the level that I enjoyed it as a young man. You know, like, there's the fighting against the system that a lot of youth, I think, have, and they want to do. They want to fight against the system because they want to be different and they don't want to conform. And as I get older, watching the movie again, you know, I watch it, and we're living in a time where it's like everything is about feelings and stuff. And it's like, we got to discuss things. We got to talk about things. We got to talk things through. And there's almost still that desire to be like, enough with talk. Let's get down to the brass tacks of everything. And then, but watching that movie, you realize that while part of me wants to be like Tyler Durden, you get to the end of the movie and it's like, this guy's a really bad guy. And it's, you know, it's, I'm enjoying it on a different level of how it's taking me on this journey of desire and disgust, you know, for this character's journey throughout this movie. And it's kind of a really fascinating thing, but it's enjoying it on a completely different level as an adult. And while, you know, because I'm a family man now, and I watch this movie and I say, yeah, let's fight the system while I'm watching the movie. But it's like, no, I don't want to give up my family, and I love what my family brings me, which you can never have if you were living this type of lifestyle. So it helps me realize that I love what I have, even though part of you still wants to yearn to be Tyler Durden. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, because there's Tyler represents this oversimplification of the problem,
right?
And that's why his solution is to burn it all down. Mm-hmm. And it's like, no. There are parts that are okay, and sure, there might be parts that are driving you nuts, but the solution to, you know, if you don't like a couple of rooms in the house, is not to destroy the house; it's to fix the rooms. Fix them up, repaint, maybe new flooring, new carpet, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, as the old saying goes. What about you, Tristan?
When I was in high school, when I first saw it, you know, I became obsessed with it. As I talked about earlier, you know, like I consumed as much as I could about the movie. I tried to learn as much as I could about the behind the scenes, and It actually it started my first foray into using a video camera for skits, which I then turned into a profession. It was I wanted to reenact the movie. Like I wanted with my friends. We wanted to reproduce some of those scenes, but we did it from the narrator's point of view, like literally his POV. So like the camera was his eyes, and so that's how we kind of recreated those scenes. And so when I was younger, when I was a young man, I was very much into the themes. I was very much into anti-consumerism, giving up, the things that own you, burning it all down, fighting the establishment and living on your own and doing what you need to do. And, you're not free to do anything until you let go of everything, like that kind of thing. And now that I'm older, I'm just kind of like, man, that's a good movie. That is an entertaining time. That's good. Like I have lost my depth with it. I'm not saying it's not there. I'm not saying I don't appreciate those themes. It's just whenever I watched it, I was just invigorated. I was just, yes. Ugh. I just, not about fighting, but just, man, I was just so jazzed to watch it. Now I'm just like, damn, that's a masterpiece. All right, hand me the popcorn. It's, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm so disconnected from it because I'm a happy individual. I don't know. John, you look like you have an idea.
I have an idea, and I wouldn't presume to know because I'm not in your head. I don't think so. Brandon, we're two different people, right? Can you verify that for me?
No.
Oh, nuts. Well, this is going sideways. Never mind. No.
This podcast is not really happening.
Yeah. I think that it's possible that it becomes a saturation point. And I'll draw sort of an example from my own experiences where I think that I'm sorry to take it down this road, but one of the things that I think would be illustrative, maybe goes along these lines, is Star Wars. People have seen the original so many times that by the time Rogue One comes out, they say, oh, no, the exhaust port was put in there on purpose. Yuck, yuck, yuck. And it's because people have watched Star Wars and watched Luke make that shot so many times by this point that they forget the fact that it was a literally impossible shot. Nobody could put an exhaust port there and say, oh, yeah, somebody will just drop a torpedo down there. We actually see somebody try with the aid of a computer beforehand, and they fail. It's not like, whatever his face, Urso, was sitting there saying, oh, a Jedi will show up, or possibly a new Padawan. And so I think that might speak to it in the sense that maybe you've seen Fight Club so many times that it becomes more of a clinical exercise because you've explored those themes with it so many times. It's not the same sort of emotional roller coaster for you. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just offering that as a possibility.
I'm going to yes and,
okay,
because I think that's good podcasting, and say, sure. Yeah. No,
okay.
No, like I honestly have no idea. I think I wasn't always the happiest individual when I was in high school. I mean, who was? But I am definitely a happy individual now. And I think it's definitely a mixture of what you're saying and just my emotional attachment to it. I think because I have definitely become more evolved in my critique of film and the behind the scenes aspects and everything like that, it has become more clinical, and because of that nature, I've also been able to just enjoy it for what it is, which is a movie. Now, speaking of which, one thing that I love talking about on this podcast is, where do you see Fincher in this film? Now, this has to be a hard one to articulate, that, because I think when people, even the casual fan, thinks of Fincher, they think of Fight Club, and they think about that camera style, that color, the underexposed individuals, and like the people in the basements, and the CGI nature of certain things, of how that's the only way you can use a camera. And what's crazy to me is that The Game was before this, and then Seven was before that, and then after this is Panic Room, and then you just have boom, Fight Club, which is a style on its own. Now you see most of the time, I feel like when you get beyond Panic Room and make your way to Zodiac, you start to see that progression of Fincher into what he is today. You see how he gets to Benjamin Button from Zodiac. You see how he gets from Social Network from Benjamin Button, and how he gets to Gone Girl from Social Network, and that like that. But it's kind of odd how he goes from The Game to Fight Club. And so I want to ask you guys, if you can articulate it. Brandon, I'm going to start with you. Where do you first see Fincher, or where do you see Fincher the most?
There's a lot of shots in this that are pure Fincher, like the slow motion smoking scene that I mentioned earlier when Helena Baumgarten, because Fincher is one who likes to play with the camera, and I'm not sure if we mentioned it in Alien 3, but the Fincher shot for me is the slow motion torch falling and then the explosion that happens from that, right? So that's the slow motion shot, and I think of that when I see this one here. But also Fincher is at this point really starting to explore what he can do with digital shots, and the sex scene in this is pure Fincher. He's like, how can we make this different? How can we make something that's been shown on film countless times? How can I make it my own? And how can we make it fit within the context of the film? And so I think the sex scene is pure Fincher.
Which is done by bullet time, which is so hilarious because The Matrix is known for bullet time, and it was released in the same year.
Yes. Where do I see Fincher? Well, I mean, my knee jerk is to say it has an ending that's open to interpretation and questions of its reality, much like The Game. So I do see them as following or as fitting together in that sort of sense, because that end is a fantasy, right? It doesn't have to be. You could look at it and say, no, he really survived it and the bomb still went off. But I think my read of that finale is he's dead. And this is the last thought that passes through his brain before he's gone. And so I see that with, Fincher. I think I see his playful nature coming through in this. And it's with the use of the spliced in genitalia at the end, where he's willing to acknowledge the fantasy that this is a world he controls. And so I would say probably where I see Fincher is a word that I would use in terms of the way this film is constructed is it's a further step of his exercise of control, of complete control over things. Because what I think a real hallmark, setting aside all of the other visual stuff, the way that Fincher tells a story is incredibly disciplined, and you never at any point get a sense of, well, yeah, okay, we'll just this will just bridge it together. We'll fix this in post. Or so. You get a sense that regardless of whether it's true or not, when you watch this film, it feels like it just sprang forth from his head like one of Zeus's children, where it's like, okay, there you go. There isn't a single decision I could really challenge on this one. Okay. And that to me would speak a lot about Fincher.
Tristan, before we get to yours on this, I'd like to ask John about something that he said there. I think it's really interesting that you think that the ending of this is like his last thought, because I had that same thought about The Game. Mm-hmm. And for me, I've always had trouble with him shooting himself and like it just coming out of his cheek, but I've never gone to the thought that this didn't happen at the end. So that's really interesting that you interpret it that way.
I think that's on purpose, though, because I think in one of the commentaries, somebody said that possibly on the DVD or something.
I haven't listened to the commentary since I bought the DVD. It's been so long.
Yeah, I think that somebody offered that as a possible take somewhere along the way. And it's something where I fixated on that, and it probably stuck with me over time. I don't think I'm
Jim
the first.
Uhls
to
have a commentary?
I don't recall.
I can't
don't
like. I
recall.
just listened to the group one where Fincher, Pitt, and Norton were together, and they also spliced in Carter from a separate commentary, which I freaking hate that they did that.
Yeah.
They didn't mention that at all, so I'm thinking it must have been one of the other commentaries on there, and I can't remember exactly. I think the writer and Palahniuk did one, and I don't remember that one as well. But yeah, John, that's interesting. I definitely don't interpret it that way. One thing that that Fincher did talk about was in that scene, like when like he pulls the trigger and doesn't die, like he admitted that it was ridiculous, and he said he's like yeah, the younger generation thought it was hysterical that he did that, and that he kept going, and the kind of the older generation was just like nope, not going to happen. That's not how that works. Like you can't just shoot yourself in the mouth and keep going.
Now, I will say, though, that perhaps it's comic book readers that ran with that, because in Preacher, there was in the comic, a character by the name of Assface who had tried to kill himself and instead had just blown his face into disfigurement. So maybe comic book fans were prepped to come in and accept that as a possibility.
Isn't it Arseface?
Oh, sure. Yes. I'm sorry. To get around the comics code, it sure was. You're right.
See, I'm watching Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, with my daughter for the first time, and there's a character who does that in season 1, and I'm like, they shoot themselves in the face and survive, and it's like,
wait, how old is your daughter?
She's 9.
Oh, good Lord, Brandon.
You would be amazed at the things people can and have survived. That it is. I'm not saying necessarily this, but there are a lot of things that people have encountered over time or tried to do themselves where they survived, and you would say, really? No, I wouldn't have thought that would be possible. So, but the thing is, the odds against it are astronomical.
Right.
But it's within the very slimmest realm of possibility. So
I don't think it was so much the ridiculous nature of him surviving, because I mean, we've all heard stories of someone shooting themselves in the head and just like disconnecting their optic nerves, and we all know the story of the guy who had the railroad spike go through his head and then his personality changed. I think it was the ridiculousness of he shot himself in the face through the mouth, and then kept going, like he kept speaking and was okay, and like like Marla,
Give me some gauze.
Like tried to use like a Kleenex to close the hole, like I think that was the ridiculous part. And per Fincher, like I have no opinion either way.
But that's probably why that's probably why I've gone down the road of saying, oh, this is a fantasy. He pulled the trigger, he's done. But on his way out, this is almost like his seeing the tunnel is, and I still won. And then the film ends, right? Like it's his last thought. So, I don't know.
Now, John, I want you to read the novel, so I won't spoil the ending of the novel. But the ending of the novel is very different from the movie. So I was going to talk about it, but I'm not going to anymore.
I appreciate that.
So to answer my own question, I don't know if I'm trying to think of like when Fincher reared his head immediately, and I think it was right away with the opening scene where Tyler is saying, think of everything we've accomplished, and you have the narrator, you have Jack, and Tyler, and they're all extremely underexposed, they're extremely underlit. And that is very trademark Fincher. And then when he kind of goes back and forth in his memory, and then the camera zooms out and zooms through the buildings, and it's all CGI, but it's done really well. It's really well done CGI, where it's not cartoony. It doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Like Fincher knows the limitations of the CGI of his day. So in 1999, he understood how far to push computer graphics. And he knows now that he can push it even further in the year 2020. And that's why I think Fincher is so great at blending CGI, because it really kicks into gear. Because when Panic Room comes around, you see a lot more of that impossible camera work that you see in Fight Club, where there's no physical way that a camera can go through a keyhole. So you have to use CGI, just like there's no physical way to go from skyscraper to basement, in one camera movement. And then when you get into Zodiac, you see that blending of CGI and live action in a much more, I don't want to say deliberate, but more perfect way, where there's so many times when you're just like, oh, I had no idea I was watching CGI. In Fight Club and Panic Room, you can tell it's really good, but you can tell that it's CGI. In Zodiac, it's almost seamless.
The fascinating thing is, the first time I saw it, I didn't detect the CG because I was just so taken in by it, I didn't even really think about it. And then on the home release, when I watched it, I think the first time I watched it, I didn't watch it with the commentary, but then the second time I watched it was with the commentary, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and the CG," and I was like, "Well, yeah, what? Yes, of course it is." It was sort of like one of those sorts of things. But I think that speaks as well to the idea that he's so in control and demands control in such a fashion that I can imagine how nerve-wracking it is to sit in the shot approval phase with him for CG. Like, people have to dread it. They have to be like, okay, this is got to be our best one, guys. Okay, Fincher's showing up today. This better be spot on perfect or we're all dead. That sort of thing.
Speaking of which, one thing that Fincher does, especially with his modern films, in the editing, like, he likes it when his editors edit the movie as he's filming it. Mm-hmm. And they'll use certain apps and programs in order to do that, so that they can share their takes with him, where they'll edit a scene together and then he can see it in real time. Sometimes he can see even though if he's on set, like, he can see them editing, and they can publish a scene to him where it's not just like publishing a Vimeo link or like a YouTube link or something like that. Like, it's actually a breakdown of the scene and which shots are used and everything like that. And he can go back with notes saying, nope, this sucks, do this again, move this around here, do this, do that. And I remember some of his editors who have won, Oscars for his movies said, like, oh yeah, man, like, once you hit send, you're just like, oh God, here we go.
But what's so interesting about that, right, is that's his process. And then I remember when the story broke that they were using a similar sort of process on The Rise of Skywalker. And the initial reaction was, what? Really? That's crazy. Why are you doing that sort of thing? And when that story broke, they should have gotten ahead of that by saying, we're borrowing a page from David Fincher's handbook. And every single nerd that had a problem with it would have said, oh, well, that's very smart. Good job, guys. That's a great idea. Great idea.
Every film Twitter would have backed off a little bit.
Oh, yes, completely. You don't come after Fincher. No. That's a problem. Big problem. So, okay, right. Here we are. We've talked about our favorite scenes. We talked about I feel like we got to put the question out there. Is there anything about this film that you don't like? Something that you would cut? A moment that you think doesn't ring true?
I think there is a scene that I don't watch, that I fast forward every single time, except when I'm listening to a commentary, and that's the beating of Angel. Mm-hmm. I don't like it. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm not saying it wasn't appropriate for the film. I'm not saying it needs to be cut. All I'm saying is I don't like it. I feel like it's if anything, it's a comment on the scene itself, that even after this many years, it still bothers me. Now, a couple of nights ago, I rewatched the film and I did it with a commentary, and so I didn't fast forward it because I wanted to hear the commentary. And it isn't actually that graphic until that final shot, where they don't actually show the contact very much, if at all, of his fists making contact with his face. It's usually, you see Edward Norton about to throw the punch, and then you see Angel's face after the punch. And like, yes, it's bloody, but the main things that you see are people's reaction to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you have that last shot of just the mangled face. I think it's the teeth. When people are missing teeth, that really bothers me. That like, because that's like, oh crap, that's permanent. Like that's you don't heal that. You don't grow another one. And it just the same like with people losing limbs. Like losing limbs really bothers me in cinema, and not in like a Kill Bill way, because whatever, you know, like that's cartoony. But when violence is done in a realistic way, and it should be applauded when it's done in a realistic way, within reason. Don't misinterpret my words here.
Yeah.
When it shows the consequence, let me rephrase that. When you show the consequence of violence realistically, let's put it that way, because I don't want people coming after me and saying like, oh, well, you know, on Twitter you said that, you know, like you shouldn't include this kind of violence in TV. Well, go screw yourself. This is what I'm saying now. Is that the aftermath of Angel's face, where his eyes were swollen, he's bleeding all over, his nose is busted and disjointed, he's missing teeth, he can barely breathe. That's what a fight looks like. That's what a beating looks like. Mm-hmm. It's not like in the movies where you see someone get hit in the head with a solid glass bottle 6 times, and then they come up and they have like one tiny gash above their eyebrow, and they're like, oh my gosh, I better keep running. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Or spoilers, the glass bottle breaking and shattering when it hits somebody on the head. No, especially the larger the bottle, the more contact that's made, the worse it is, sort of thing. So just sort of backing you up on that. Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. And so again, like I'm not saying it should be cut. It's just, it makes me uncomfortable, and it still makes me uncomfortable to this day. But other than that, that's really all I can think of, because I don't want to say this lightly, but you're like, as film fans, we're often asked, is there a perfect movie? Or is this movie perfect for what it is? And, like oftentimes we'll hear, Citizen Kane or Godfather when people try to commit to a perfect quote unquote film, or quote unquote perfect film. And when somebody asks me that question, I think like, well, what did I not like? What would I have excised? What would I have cut or changed? I can't think of anything for Fight Club. And I know I've just talked for a very long time. No. It's like, I can't think of anything that I would change in Fight Club. Brandon, what about you?
I always think it's weird that the movie starts and it goes in flashback. So I don't know if I think the movie would be better if they just told it chronologically, but that flashback sequence where it starts with the gun, goes back, and then goes back again, always is a little unsettling to me watching the film.
I will just flat out say there isn't a frame I would change. Mm-hmm. Not a single one. I think that this is you mentioned Citizen Kane and The Godfather. I think that this is a film people are still talking about it 20 years later. I think that they'll teach this in film classes. I think that this is something where when one of my kids makes the bad mistake of taking some sort of film analysis course and telling me what their teacher thought of Fight Club, I will say, no. We're going to talk about this one. Where
I had this film taught to me in film school.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I just had to go it on my own. So there you go. No, but I wouldn't change a frame. I think that this is a perfect film.
I would change the penis at the end, thinking about it again.
I would.
Really?
I it bothers me every single time. I think it's stupid.
No.
Like, I think it's perfect. Honestly, I think it's perfect.
I'm not going to offer commentary on whether the penis itself is perfect, but I will say that I think it very much speaks to that sort of wink that Fincher gives.
Which eye is winking?
Well, we'll leave that one open to interpretation, but I will say that it's just a little touch from him to say, I've been in control this whole time. This is all fantasy. I took you on this. It's almost like just like a little sign off. That's all, folks, sort of thing at the end of this. Only far more mature than that.
See, why I think it's so perfect is because in the scene when he's introducing Tyler's previous jobs and the narrator's talking basically directly to the audience, and Tyler Durden's in the back doing the thing, and he says it's a cigarette burn, and he goes up and he points to it. Like, even right there is a subtle wink at this is a movie about filmmaking as well, in a little way. That's why it's perfect, is to have that one little thing, because you have that moment early on that breaks the fourth wall. So breaking the fourth wall one more time is just a cherry on the cake for me.
I want to say, too, that recently I did a partial rewatch of something that I think came out the same year, or is at least very close to the same year, Office Space. And I think that Office Space and Fight Club would make a perfect double feature because they're two different ways of dealing with the same sense of ennui that the generation that they were speaking to was feeling at the time, because they're both about guys trapped in office jobs that they hate. There's no point to their lives. Their jobs mean nothing. They're forced to file these reports that don't carry any weight or meaning, and they're wondering what they've done with all of the time that they've had in their lives. In one of them, it's Mike Judge, being silly. In Fight Club, it's David Fincher, a little bit here and there being silly, but I think they're almost like flip sides of the same coin, dealing with the same issues.
I've never seen Office Space.
Well, now
you have a reason.
we have to have a House of Judge podcast. It's a much shorter duration show. Don't worry.
Unless we brought in Silicon Valley.
Oh, that's true. And if I could ever track down the complete episodes of Beavis and Butthead. But no. Copyright, blah, blah, blah.
All right. Well, so as we're rounding third, I think we have to, we could probably do a podcast, show an entire podcast around this movie. I feel like there's so many layers. There's so many things to talk about. I feel like we've been talking for over an hour and we just scratched the surface. Like, first we talked about what the movie means to us, and then we started talking about the themes and the analysis, and then we moved on to like individual things that we like the editing, the cinematography, the CGI, the acting, and things like that. Speaking of which, perfect cast. I cannot imagine a single person in this movie played by anybody else.
Meatloaf is the best.
I love. Oh God, his name was Robert Paulson. I'm glad you both that we got to Meatloaf, because I think that it is sort of a crime to talk about this film without talking about the fact that yes, the cast is perfect, but I really do think Meatloaf is an unrecognized linchpin to this film. He is so unerringly perfect. There is not a moment that I do not believe he's Robert Paulson, while at the exact same time saying to myself, hey, that's the guy that sang Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Like, it is so, in a sense, it's almost like the cigarette burn or the breaking of the fourth wall sort of stuff that happens in this film, where it's like, it's Meatloaf, but come on, this is fantasy.
I didn't know who Meatloaf was when I saw it the first time. Like, I knew the songs, right? But I didn't know what he looked like. So it was a few years later. But he is just stellar.
He is. He really, really is.
Side note, I just remembered this tidbit. We're all talking about how much we love Fight Club. There was a Fincher's daughter came to him one time and said, "Oh, hey." Like she was hanging out with like some kid named Justin. She's like, "Hey, Justin says that Fight Club is his favorite movie." And David Fincher said to his daughter, "You need to stay away from Justin."
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I love that he's so utterly aware of his of his own legacy and how and what it breeds.
That's funny.
Apparently,
So,
Rosie O'Donnell went on the air when she had her show in '99. And the Rosie O'Donnell show, she saw this movie. It disturbed her so much that she went on her own show to talk about how much it disturbed her, how she couldn't sleep for days, and how she was imploring people not to see it, and she ruined the twist on national television.
Oh, what a horrible person.
Yeah, the famed Queen of Nice was later revealed, in fact, to be a horrible person, and that's probably our first signal flare right there. So, hey, go figure.
Can you imagine being a filmmaker where they're like, okay, that's fine. Like trash on the movie all you want, tell people not to go see it, whatever. Like their demographics are not going to overlap in any way. Like when you tell somebody not to go see it or you try to boycott a film, it's proven not to work. And in fact, you're doing quite the opposite because of free press. But don't ruin the twist. Don't ruin the ending. How horrible are you?
Maybe she was just bitter that East of Eden didn't catch on. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe she's upset that they didn't cast her to be Bob.
Sick burn. Sick
Hurtful.
burn. Coming from Canada. That's a cold front. Wow, that's freezer burn.
This is a family podcast, okay? My goodness.
Point to Brandon. Well done.
But yes, she wasn't cast as Bob, but thankfully Meatloaf was. Now we almost got Reese Witherspoon as Marla Singer.
I can't
I know.
that.
Nope.
That hardcore would not have worked. And Reese Witherspoon also thought so, that it would not work because it went down. I think it was, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like Winona Ryder and Courtney Love were in hardcore possibility of being cast. And Fincher said, no, I want Helena Bonham Carter. And the studio said, no, you're going to get Reese Witherspoon. And so they gave right to refusal to Reese Witherspoon. She read the script and she's just like, oh my God, this is way too dark. No. And then said no. And thankfully it went to Helena Bonham Carter.
I can't picture anybody else.
Yeah, I can't possibly. And the thing is, Helena Bonham Carter has such, like, I mean, this is obviously because she's already in the role partially, but like just the angularity of her face speaks to Marla's character. And again, that's what a weird sort of compromise. No, we'll do Reese Witherspoon instead. What? What? That's not even like you could make
they wanted the name.
You could make the argument for Courtney Love, although I'm very grateful they did not go with that direction. But you could make that argument because her whole persona was Marla Singer, basically.
Yeah.
You could make the argument that would work. Winona Ryder, I can't see happening. But Helena Bonham Carter, she's so... You know what really proves that she's absolutely perfect, that nobody else could have done this role? Slide. Nobody else delivers that line the same way.
What truly made me realize, I mean, besides the whole experience of watching the movie, but the extra contextual knowledge that I found, like one bit of trivia that made me realize, holy crap, of course she would do this because she gets Marla Singer. She is Marla Singer. Is she would have the makeup artist apply Marla's makeup on her face with her left hand.
Oh.
Because she said, she's like, Marla would not be adept at putting on makeup, nor would she care that much to be perfect. How great is that?
You're right. That is perfect. That is perfect.
I love hearing that stuff. I love all those behind the scenes stuff about how actors like Helena Bonham Carter's quality just truly get their characters and throw themselves into it. And not in like a weird, like I'm going to, get pneumonia because,
Right.
my character back then wouldn't take penicillin or anything like that. I'm saying like those moments where they're just like, yeah, this is what my character would do. Or like, this is one way to enhance the performance where, like I don't have to go to boot camp for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So do any of the three of us give this less than 5 stars?
No.
Nope.
No. All right. We're in a
But
great
I
go
will
there.
say one thing, though, is that every time I watch this movie, I go into it and I'm like, this can't be as good as I remember it. Like this movie's probably just a fine movie, and I just overrate it every time. And then I watch it and I'm like, damn, this is a good movie. Damn, this is a
Yeah.
5-star film. Like, holy
Yep.
smokes, this is so good.
It is.
Every
really
time I
is.
watch it, I'm like, this can't be that good. And it is every time.
So since we can't really go into detail about why we would pick 5 stars, since we're all picking 5 stars and we all just talked about it for over an hour, and we can't rank it with the rest of his films because we don't want to, we don't really want to put the cart before the horse because we have so many more episodes to go. But of the 4 movies that he's directed so far, how would you rank them? And where, like, is Fight Club on the top? Brandon, you look like you have an answer.
It's not. The Game is still, I still prefer The Game to this. So I would go Game, Fight Club, 7, Alien 3.
All right. John, give it to me.
Am I allowed to do like a golf ranking thing where there are 2 number 1s and then a 3 and a 4?
No,
No.
Okay, come on. That's just cold, man. That's just cold.
not even a little.
I adore The Game, as we well established in our previous conversation. And I adore Fight Club. They both speak to different aspects of my personality. And in fact, I think that it's beautiful that one is about holding on to hope and one is about the loss of it. I have to give the edge to The Game, but it's painful. It's
You guys are killing me.
It's so no. I mean, we're talking. This is razor thin. This is like photo finish. Whose nose was across the line first? And I think it's because the game's overarching themes have resonated with me more strongly as I've gotten older. Whereas Fight Club, I've got a little bit of distance between the narrator and myself now, and I view the world a little bit differently than he did, sort of thing. So maybe that's the differentiation there. And then 7, and then Alien 3.
All right.
So, and where did you go down?
Well,
I believe that we're in the minority on this. Like,
Yes.
Fincher's fans. I'm pretty sure we're in the minority. I don't know many people that hold The Game as high as John and I do.
True.
I know. I think it's great. I think The Game needs to get some love. I think it's a very underrated film, not only in Fincher's filmography, but also within film. I think it's often overlooked. I feel like people often think it goes 7, then Fight Club, and then Benjamin Button, basically. Like, I feel like there's so many times when people kind of selectively forget parts of his filmography. But for me, with all that said, you're going to think I'm a hypocrite. Fight Club is absolutely number 1, then 7, then Alien 3, then The Game. So I feel like I'm kind of balancing out your guys' love a little bit and putting it down on the bottom.
You have to have an outlier for the science experiment at all times. So, or maybe you're the control. Who knows?
Maybe
Who
I am
knows?
the control.
Yes.
Maybe you just need to watch The Game a few more times.
Yes. Yes, that's what's necessary.
No, like, in all seriousness, if you guys were jerks, that would be your absolute recommendation. You'd be like, you know what? I really recommend that you watch it again, that you rewatch it and really pay attention this time. Okay,
Maybe
All right.
you just didn't pick up on everything, Tristan.
Maybe you didn't
that's what's going on.
understand it.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't get it. Maybe you should go to film school
No.
for a couple of years and then
And
watch it again.
No, but and that's okay. That's okay. A lot of people miss the point. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
like
it's
just
fine.
come
It's
on.
fine.
Just get up here with us. Yeah.
Not everybody is in tune with film as I am, so
Yes.
that's why you should watch it again. But maybe you keep a dictionary next to you. When you watch it.
Call me. We'll watch it together.
All right, Brandon, where can we find you all around the interwebs or on other shows?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Matella. You can find me over on Trek FM with a show called The Line, which is all about Star Trek Picard. You can find me on the Fandom Podcast Network, as well as in our own independent feed with a show called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, where we cover all of Hitchcock's films in chronological order. And last but not least, on the United Federation of Podcast Network, my friend Zach and I have a show called Franchise Fatigue, where we cover movies, remakes, and sequels.
All right, John Evelyn Mills, give it to me quick and dirty.
Well, you can find me lurking around on the internet as Kessel Junkie, giving voice to my inner Tyler Durden. You can also find me, of course, same username, letterboxd, all of that stuff. And you can find me here on the Nerd Party, co-hosting a delightful little Star Wars podcast called Aggressive Negotiations, where we explore the, some of the deeper corners of the Star Wars galaxy, not just your average news show or book review. We're exploring the deep themes and other aspects of that galaxy far, far away. And Tristan, where can people find you?
Well, I'm all over the internet under the username The Insane Robin, Letterboxd, Twitter, Instagram, all that. And you can find 2 of my archive shows on the network at thenerdparty.com. One called Nerd Nuptial, one called Punch It Writing and Star Trek. And one I host with my wife, one I host with my good friend Shar. And, this is, speaking of the network, this is all made possible by people who listen to us, who engage with us, who go to thenerdparty.com, who rate us on iTunes, who email us, and you guys make it all worthwhile. So if you would like to contact us and talk about Fight Club or talk about Fincher, go to thenerdparty.com/contact, select House of Fincher, fill out the form, it'll send us an email. And if you want to rate us, just search us on iTunes, podcasts, or on Android, iPhone, wherever you are, you can search for us, give us a review. And if you give us a 5-star review, we'll throw you a party in your honor. You won't be invited, but it will be thrown. and please check out all of our other shows. We have a Doctor Who podcast. We have other Star Wars podcasts. We have a Star Trek podcast. We have film podcast. We have an A24 podcast. We have so much coming at you every single day of the week. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for listening and entering the House of Fincher.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.